no data. The fuck? There's no data.
Top 5 underrated colleges in America right now. Number 5, Pitt. Strong academics, it's a good city, but somehow never gets... No, no.
Alright. Okay. Alright, so basically, Paul Thomas Anderson, who is a very great director of the era we are in, made some of the greatest films that there are. There Will Be Blood, um, now One Battle After Another, Boogie Nights, and these crazy films. And this is the interview I was watching last night. I couldn't watch the whole of it, but I was like, man, I should watch it on stream. And actually, the reason why I thought about that was because it talks a lot about porn. And though I think porno is a very uh, taboo topic to talk about, but I think the way Paul talks about it, it's just great.
When I was 17, I wrote a short film called The Dirk Diggler Story.
Did you?
Yeah, and actually shot it on videotape.
Right.
And it had like a sort of like Zelig slash Spinal Tap kind of format, this sort of fictional documentary, you know, which, you know, I was just a Zelig fan and a Spinal Tap fan. And I was also, 17 years old, so I was completely immersed in watching porno, you know, in a kind of...
Why the fuck my stream is so lagging? Let me think about it. Let me see. Let's try now.
in a kind of horny young boy way, but also in like a filmmaker way. Like I wanted to make movies, and here were these terrible movies, but that I also kind of got off on them and were so goofy and bad, you know. So sort of all those things were kind of, and I lived in the valley too. In the same.
So basically, what I can get out of this is I've not seen the Ziegler's film that PTA made, or the film series talking about the spinal and the whatever. But what I can think about it as is that it's just about porno, and he talks about that he lives in the valley, which means San Jose, I guess. San Fran.
Valley, which is the capital.
San Fran, which is he's saying it's the capital of porno. Um, I think very similar to what he's saying about like porno is not a very um, thing to watch. I mean, it's not a great thing to watch. Let's be honest. It's not a very noble thing to do. But the fact that they are not even good is a big problem, because I think making porno is very fine. I mean, it's human nature to watch porn, and it's human nature to have sex. It's human nature that, not just human nature but animal nature, that there will be some sort of prostitution across every species. There was a study where a monkey a group of monkeys were like put into some cages, and there was the idea of money was introduced to them, and then they were like, after the shortage of money, the female monkey started offering herself as a form of um, object to prostitute herself, to sell herself to the male monkeys on the on the on the agreement that they'll pay her, because that payment gets her, bananas, for that example. And though I totally believe in that human brain is just one of the greatest things that is, not even that. uh, Descartes, a very big mathematician and philosopher from the uh, I think 18th or 19th century, 18th most probably, or 17th, he said there are humans and then there are beast machines, if I'm not wrong. And by beast machines, he meant that anything which is like, animals. Because his proposition was that every human being who is mentally sane can give a million outcomes, a million answer to the question, how are you? But first of all, we cannot ask a monkey how he is or she is. But even if we could, the answer would be very limited. Under no restrictions, a human being can give a million and a billion answers to a simple question. Someone can say fine, someone would say good, someone would say terrible, bad, anything for that matter. I run out of adjectives. But the thing is, prostitution and porno is just human nature. But the fact that they are not very good is a very big thing to talk about. And not just that, every industry, everything around the media industry is actually tested on porno. The first DVDs were porno, the magazines, the idea that there can be a VR headset basically came for porno, because when you see now, it's very common to have a VR headset and have an immersive experience of having sex while watching some porno, and that is a very normal thing to say. But now that we are talking about it, let's go ahead and let's see what he's talking about.
So it was always kind of peripherally around me. There was a warehouse near where I went to high school that had, it was like, here would be sort of like a portion of the warehouse that had some signage, and then there'd be another one with a big sign, and then just like a stretch of warehouse that had no signage at all, but a ton of like expensive cars parked out in front. So you're like, what the fuck is going on inside that one with no sign, and it was clear they were making porno movies. So it just stuck. The story obviously stuck with me for 9 years. I was 9, 10 years. I was 20, 25, 26 when I made it. So,
That's your first film.
it's actually my second one. People get it's my second one. Heartache or Sydney was my first one. This was a movie that I wrote and directed. It was my first movie, and I had the most horrendous time for the editing process. It was just like financed by people whose roots were in television, bad television, like Baywatch type television stuff, and who decided to try and get the movies in. It was just a situation where clearly they hadn't read the script, you know. And I delivered the movie, and they were sort of really confused, and all I could do was kind of point to the script and say, "This is what I shot. This is what you paid for. This is what you agreed to." And this sort of argument would always come up, well, the script is not the movie, and the movie is not the script. It's like, but that's the agreement, and I stuck to it.
What do you think about, if you've seen a lot of porn movies, what do you think about the level of just the way they're made? Could they be better?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about here because porno movies, they could be a genre,
Yeah,
you know, and they should be a genre,
I think so.
you know, like, let me put it this way, there's a whole series of John Holmes movies, and they're called, like, Johnny Wad, who was this character he created, where he was this sort of suave, sophisticated detective. It's a lot like the Brock Landers stuff that Dirk Diggler creates. It's sort of all modeled after that. And he's this kind of Humphrey Bogart detective, and he's a little bit James Bond, a little bit Sam Spade, you know?
Yeah.
And just think about that structure. They're essentially murder mysteries, right?
Right.
But they're also fuck films. So you're on the hook in this sort of it's just pure story, and you're just pure what's going to happen next. I want to see you fuck. I want to see you defuse the bomb. It's exciting. It's like,
Well made?
well, they don't really they pull that off because they're actually sexy because they're on film, and certainly just it helps that the girls are at least natural. You know what I mean? If you're looking at it as a pure sort of hormone boy way, you're like, you know, my sort of like my hormones go towards like, oh, she's pretty, and no, she doesn't have huge enormous fake tits and this flat washboard stomach that just somehow doesn't feel real to me. It's like watching science fiction. I mean, it's a sci-fi movie at that point, you know. There's girls like, there's like a little zit on her butt, you know what I mean? She's got a little tummy, you know what I mean? And her tits aren't out to here, and you're sort of watching sort of natural. And the same thing with the guys. It's kind of like the guys are not appealing in porno today. And I'll be the first to say, yeah, that guy's sexy looking, or I want to see him fuck. But there's like fucking robots, you know what I mean? So if you start with the acting, and not even just the acting or the dialogue, just sort of physically looking at these people who are just chiseled to perfection, there's nothing you can relate to. You instantly, it doesn't make sense to you.
And well, now that he's talking about it, let me talk about it for a while. He's basically talking about how porno are a very underrated genre of movies, and they clearly are, because everything there is in the media spectrum, everything there is, it is actually very much mainstream. It is very much mainstream. Everything for that matter. You see romantic movies are mainstream. Even the subgenre Western movies are actually mainstream. You see, we have been seeing a lot of westerns over the years now. There was the Hateful Eight, and there before that there was Django Unchained. All of these being great freaking Western movies, and there might be a lot more which I cannot remember right now at this particular point. But I think the main point is they are mainstream. We have been seeing a lot of sex in our movies across the time. I hate to say it, but most of the movies that Sydney Sweeney does is not even soft porn, it is porn for that matter. I was watching Housemaid yesterday, and there was a scene where she's just naked. She's just naked. I have total I have an opinion that every film director in this world, whether great or not great, whether bad, whether wicked, whether weak, whether whether fuck I'm saying whether whether male, female, transgender, any gender for that matter, lesbian, gay, anything, any person who claims to be a film director, I think he have or she have, they have the actual freedom to do anything. But actually, think about it. Why there is nudity in a film called Housemaid? There might be a very much big um, requirement in the script, or not in the script. There's no requirement in script anywhere. Maybe there was some sort of requirement in through the book, but when you think about it, it could have been avoided. It was a story about a murder mystery, not even a murder mystery. How that girl was so psychic. She goes out of the room, out of the house. Sydney is actually now facing the same thing that she faced, and now they're gonna be killing the guy. But think about it. Can the movie be successful or great, for that matter, or better, if they didn't include a sex scene in the film? And I think, yeah, because I've been seeing movies for such a long time, and I think they are being done without sex scenes for a long period of time. But do they have the liberty to upload a sex scene, make a sex scene in the movie? Sure, why not? It is their freaking choice. But we have same problems when porno come into the mainstream. Why do we have that problem? Because we haven't accepted that fact yet, that sex is an integral part of the movie making business, because of the younger population, the democrats, not democrats, but um, the conservatives. I'll be right back. I'll be fucking right back. So as I was saying, um, why is the latency so long? I cannot understand that. Um, so yeah, as I was saying, the main problem with any of those films is that, no, not films, but porn, is that why they are bad, why they are underrated. I was actually reading this Reddit thread by this porn director, and somebody asked it was an AMA, and somebody asked, when do you write the script, and they were like, and he was like, we don't, we write it on the spot, and that's why they suck. And when you compare them with the Japanese porn movies, you see they are actually quite better, for the reason because they are actually well thought, and they are actually well acted. I think, I mean, as an outsider, when you see, it's a very racist thing to say, but actually when you see an Asian guy, you might see that they are actually a lot similar, and we don't really have we don't have the eye to actually differentiate them for a very long time. The reason why we can do it for Americans or African Americans is that we have been seeing them from our childhood through the media, but actually the main core Japanese and South Koreans and Vietnamese and all these East Asian people, we haven't been seeing them so while, so that's why we cannot differentiate them. And I cannot comment on the beauty, but if I could, they are good looking. They're not sexy as their American counterparts, but they are actually good looking. And that is why I say, I raise the question, does a porn star required to be sexy? Alright, people do have an opinion that I don't want to see an obese or an overweight girl to be on my screen, but there is a very big difference between being overweight and obese, and fit and obese, and there's a lot of body spectrums between there. So my thing is, what I'm saying is, these things push women to be more like the fit part, rather than being a good actress. And I'm not saying that the mainstream actress like Sydney Sweeney or Zendaya or who else, Dakota Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, and all of these actresses. I'm not saying that they should do porn. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if porn is became mainstream, the actress in that genre, I think they would be good looking and good actors, good actresses.
Watching his face. Okay, so there's that. Now with the Johnny Watt stuff, it's pretty, it's well, it pulled off, it also has a sense of humor about itself. And when it doesn't, boy, it's really funny to laugh at. But it's also really funny to laugh with, you know, when it knows it's not taking itself too seriously. And it does a good job. And John Holmes is quite an actor. He's really natural, you know. But the main thing is that a lot of the sex doesn't happen for the camera. And that's the thing is that, I mean, that's what most porno actors complain about, is that every position in porno is completely uncomfortable because it's completely unnatural for the camera. It's like having an actor, like, can you cheat a little bit this way? And they're going, exactly. And they feel like stiff or something. Porno acting and sex scenes in the 70s were much more sort of, the camera figure it out. Do you know what I mean? So the camera's a bit more sort of handheld and a little bit more renegade and trying to get into the spot to get the good juicy close-ups that you want to get. Somehow comes out feeling more sexy and natural.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you rent a porno movie and it's just they're in sort of contortions and positions that are clearly guided towards the camera. But you can't, you don't...
That's a nice point, because I mean, let's be honest, I'm a man too. I love watching porn, and while I watch some porn, I got into the I somehow got towards the the backstage, the BTS of porn, and I got to know that there are female actresses who actually try to get the perfect scene, and she was trying that scene too. But let me fucking figure this shit out. Let me figure that shit out. Then I'll just fucking talk. But yeah, let me just figure that shit out. Why the fuck I cannot? My stream sucks. Why the fuck? What the fuck is happening with my mouse? Yeah, no, it's fine. But yeah, as I was saying, wait, let me see. Am I still live? Oh yeah. No, it's not made for fucking kids. I'm talking about porn, for God's sakes. Yeah, so I think the main idea behind these things is, how the fuck should I customize? Oh yeah. Let me check it out. Okay, it must be fixed by now. So yeah, let me see now. Let me get food then, guys. Amori in France, Amori in Paris. Kill your needy advance. Pull down your IG, look through my lens, I made into grammar. Did I offend and gully your dreams to me?
Bit of sense, and don't come off as sexual anyway. I mean, the goal of a porno movie, I think, should be to give you a boner.
It's almost like we have a duty. You know, somebody should be making better stuff here. It doesn't leave you quite so devastated.
Right. Well, I think some of that devastation comes from just watching the sadness in a lot of performers' faces.
Yeah.
You see nowadays. I mean, you really kind of instantly go to, who who are they, how did they get there, and how can I help? You know what I mean? The sort of save me instinct, you know. And there's a lot of sort of save me faces in that industry that are just kind of going, you know, almost like they're looking into the lens, going, "Save me, wink, wink," you know.
Yeah.
You know, in the late '60s, sort of early '70s, when the sort of porn was sort of fashionable and okay to see in the theater, you know, as a sort of date movie. You know,
I didn't know that you can watch porn in American theaters.
and then, you know, Deep Throat was the highest-grossing independent film of all time. You know, Behind the Green Door was happening, but Midnight Cowboy was also happening.
Yeah.
See, what I think, what would have happened had it not been for video, is that more and more the sort of porn movie would have come closer
Crossover.
to, you know, a sort of legitimate, you know, traditional narrative stuff. Traditional narrative stuff moving more towards sort of porno
Like it kind
elements.
of did in other world cinemas, like in Japanese, like Aino Corrida and
Or Spain.
Spain and French movies on what Pedro does.
Totally, Pedro does it, or even in Betty Blue. One example I've used before is, and it's not sort of doing it to be salacious or anything like that, it's saying like, how interesting would it have been to see Forrest Gump and Robin Wright, you know, and that Robin Wright character, make that baby that we see at the end, that sex scene. How does Forrest Gump have sex? You know what I mean? That's a great character, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to sort of just give you a boner to show you Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, you know, see your tits in bed. It's going, what could be more sort of human, or what could be more of a like revelation of a character than watching them have sex? I mean, that says a lot about someone. I think is how they sort of touch another person in bed. I wrote a scene that I kind of wish I'd filmed that I know shouldn't have been in the movie of Boogie Nights, but it was for Don Cheadle's character Buck and his wife Jessie. They decide to have sex, you know, at night. They're sort of lying in bed, and they try and have sex real. They kind of suggest to each other, like, maybe we could try and do this like real, like, and Don starts to fuck up a little bit because he starts saying, "Oh baby, yeah, baby, baby," you know, and she's like, and then he kind of catches himself, and then she starts doing it. It was a very sort of funny, small, tender scene where you kind of watch these two people who are so caught up. We didn't shoot it. I wrote it and we rehearsed it and it was great, but I knew it would never be in the movie. You know?
Why? I think that's really strong.
I couldn't get it in. I couldn't get it in there in any place where I knew that I thought it was sort of taken care of in other places.
Sure.
This sort of like porno people trying to be real people. But it's so funny because I've been with sort of these sort of situations